Hey everybody, welcome to Monday. Yes, I'm looking rougher than usual. Because I was working on Boss Fight like crazy over the weekend. Update about that at the end of this video. I won't do it now because people want to get right to the meat of this. I have made lots of notes so I don't ramble too badly about Cuties. I watched it so you don't have to. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. One video a month. If you enjoy one of my videos a month, $1 a month is not too much to ask, right? And this was a rough one. Oh my God. Not just getting through the movie, but also getting called a pedophile enabler online for thinking all the hot takes on this movie so far are wrong. It's not as god awful kitty porn as its biggest detractors, who have not seen the movie, say. It is also not the work of something to say minority voice genius that the movie's biggest supporters claim. It is 2/3 interesting, decently made movie, 1/3 hot mess. So let's get into it. Where did the Cuties controversy start? I am not spending that much time on the controversy in this review. I just want to contextualize for people. If you want to see a more wide-ranging discussion, Dirk from Super Arrogant Bros and I did another dialogue about it. I talked about The Witcher with Dirk and Star Wars, I think. It's been a while, but that'll be up tomorrow, maybe? I'm not sure. I have to coordinate with him. But the whole shitstorm got rolling when Netflix effed up bad and changed the poster, and I've got it here, from the original French mignon, which basically means cutie, sort of, where you see it's sort of not what the Netflix poster was. And I'm pretty sure they could have gotten away with the right half. There's nothing all that terrible about the blonde girl. Everybody else is in something of an inappropriate pose for 11-year-olds, right? And this is what kicked the whole thing off. And the problem is that nobody now can go into watching the movie on Netflix without that framing in their mind. And so I tried to jettison that and watch it for what it was. So what isn't it? It is not, as some very angry people on the internet claim, child pornography. You don't see any nude body parts of a minor, male or female. You do not see any sex acts with minors, male or female. But it gets kind of close in one place. In one place, sort of close in about 3 places. There are 4 scenes in the movie that made me uncomfortable. There are 2 scenes that made me disgusted. The first one might have been the worst. There were a couple times I was watching it on my own, but there were a couple times I kind of reflexively, I was sitting alone in my house and still looked over my shoulder to make sure nobody was seeing me watch those particular scenes. So does the movie go too far? In places, yes. The worst scene for me was the movie that ends up in many trailers for Cuties that is like music video style close-ups on body part shots of the girls doing suggestive dance moves. Now, in the context of the movie, that is them making a video for Instagram that they're doing to get attention. The problem with the way it's executed is there's no way that 11-year-olds would have gotten that, technical skill in making a music video. So that element falls flat. Also, you don't find out that it's an Instagram video until you've already been, what did I just watch? Then, of course, there's the big performance at the end. More on that in a bit. But that didn't shock me as much just because it actually wasn't very good. And I was kind of disappointed that the dancing was so bad that I couldn't tell whether they were booing them because they were being sexually suggestive or the crowd was booing them because they just sucked. More on that in a bit. But Cuties is at its best in the first 2/3, when it's a look at a girl stuck between cultural traditionalism, that sort of not the most out there horribly misogynistic cultural practices from that part of the world, but a lot of them, and the Wild West of internet videos, sort of the territory of, if you don't parent your kids, the internet will, and that's your own damn fault territory. I liked in the first 2/3 how the movie showed that a lack of respect for adult women, shown through, the gut-wrenching things the mom's going through with dad bringing home a new and much younger, not just second wife, but referring to them as, oh, you're gonna have another mother, kids, isn't that exciting? And sending gifts and bribing the kids so they'll be all happy. Well, Ami's not buying it because she was in her mom's room when she wasn't supposed to be, so she hid under the bed. And she's privy to her mother breaking down, just sobbing, like awful. It's a gut-wrenching scene in a good way, because she is not cool with this second marriage, like not cool at all. And that sparks Ami's sort of rebellion that happens through the rest of the movie. And I thought that was very powerful, showing that a lack of respect for adult women hurts the girls that these women are supposed to be, teaching how to be women, which makes sense, right? But at its worst, the movie's a rushed, amateurish mess, and it commits the very same mistakes that it claims to oppose. And unfortunately, the worst of those messy moments happen in the final third. I think the movie could have used another 20 minutes of character development, but I say I think because I'm not sure. A big problem with the movie as it goes along is the lack of acting experience in the girls really shows in places. There are scenes that I just don't buy, and it's all very surface because these girls aren't trained actors. They're not experienced actors. They've never acted in anything before, and they just don't have the ability to go where this movie needs to go. Not their fault. It's a risk when you're dealing with kids. But, early on, the lead, Ami, and her main friend, Angelica, there's this kind of authenticity that works. Early on, the emotions are quite good. You actually feel it. You feel her pain. You feel her confusion. You feel her sort of fish out of water. You really feel for the family in general, because it's, her younger brother, and mom's got a baby still like strapped to her back. And they have to, the mom and the daughter have to do all this extra work for the wedding. They have to cook for, I swear to God, it was a week, like the mountains of this food, so people can come and celebrate dad's new wife who mom doesn't want around. And, there are times that Ami flat out says she hates her father. And who can blame her? The befriending of the girls and it's weird, okay? The whole thing starts meeting Angelica, who is dancing provocatively in a laundry room and ironing her hair. So, of course, Ami tries to iron her hair and burns it. And that's one of those relatable moments. A lot of girls try to do it themselves because they know their mom will say no, and they end up burning their hair. But her first kind of direct encounter with the Cuties, she's watching them dance, and they throw a rock at her head, and so hard that there's a mark. And that's how they know who she is the next day, because she still has the mark on her head from the rock they threw. Great start to a friendship, right? What could possibly go wrong? The relationship between her and the other girls is sort of some ingratiation, some manipulation, some flat out bullying. She basically learns the moves for the stuff they're doing through the videos that she makes of them on a stolen cell phone. She steals it from her cousin. And then so she uses the video to learn their moves, and then she one-ups them through the help of internet twerking videos. And it's some ratchet twerking like that. They show the videos and it's like, whoa. Like, okay, like there's a woman, never mind. For the first 2/3 of the movie, there's some cool juxtaposition. Every one of those sort of, oh my God, shocking twerking scenes is juxtaposed with an, oh my God, moment of cultural conservatism. You know, super, like crazy age appropriate sexy dance moves, and then scene of cultural misogyny, right? And the one that really struck me was when, the auntie goes on about how wonderful it is that Ami's gotten her first period, and so she's going to be married off soon. And it's like, that was when the movie worked best. When it was making me question, like, yes, these crazy twerking scenes are shocking the shit out of me. But what's worse, twerking 11-year-olds or 13-year-olds being forced to marry much older men? Obviously, the 13-year-olds being forced to marry much older men is worse. Like, just hands down, yes, it's worse. It's the twerking is the lesser of evils. But that isn't what the movie ends up saying. Ami's rebellion starts descending into full-blown, like, crisis, mental breakdown, emotional breakdown sorts of thing. Violence, like, gross hypersexualization. Again, with the cousin, he finally discovers she stole his phone, and she tries to get him to give it back by, I'm not even gonna describe it, because it'll sound worse than it is, but not by much. And of course he goes, "What's wrong with you?" And like, and she starts being violent against girls at school. She starts being violent against her friends. There's this whole spiral of internet shame where she gets into a fight at school. During the fight, she gets her pants pulled down. And it's like kids underwear. They have like monkeys on it or something like that. I don't know, like the kid underwear. And so she gets made fun of for that. And so Angelica, freaking out, goes, "They're not looking at our dancing videos anymore. You have to do something. This is all they're talking about." And that leads to the crotch shot that she posts. Again, you don't see it. It's implied that she did it, which of course, yes, gets people to stop talking about her getting her pants pulled down. But it gets worse instead of better. And to the point that a boy smacks her ass in class right in front of the teacher and doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. Remember I said the last third of the movie, it's like, what the hell is going on here? Because I'm sorry, most boys know just because a girl does something like that does not give you the right to touch them. Just saying. I don't know what's going on with these children. But it all kind of snowballs. She ends up getting into the final performance after screwing it up multiple times by shoving the girl she's replacing into the water, into like one of the canals. She just walks behind her, goes whoosh, like it's like an Assassin's Creed scene, and it doesn't work because it's so ridiculous. Like, I ended up laughing. It wasn't a big dramatic moment. It was like, okay, that was ridiculous and hilarious, because by that point I was in such a state of that, it was funny by that point. The movie had already shit the bed by the point that you're supposed to be, like the big moment, the rock bottom moment hits where they do the performance and they're booed. A few problems with that. One is that You'd think that the crotch shot would be rock bottom, and you'd think there'd be more of an intervention than there really is. Basically, her mom smacks her a few times. Her mother and auntie like spray her with freezing water, basically trying to perform an exorcism. They call a priest, like a wise man, who basically tells her to get a grip. That was one of my favorite moments in the whole thing, where you think this like old man from a, really religious conservative angle is going to enable the horror that's going on here, but he actually doesn't. And this is where I think the movie does a good job distinguishing true people of faith. The character's name, this priest guy, is named El Hajj, which is basically somebody who's been to the Hajj. But he basically does, touches her forehead, mutters a prayer, and then said, I know what you're going through, to the mom. I know what you're going through is difficult. You can leave this marriage if you want, but there is no demon in that child. And I'm like, finally, an adult stood up for this poor girl. Of course, it doesn't really get better at that point. She still continues her spiral downward to getting booed and freezing on stage, bursting into tears and running off at this dance competition. Now, there are a few logistic problems. There's a few suspension of disbelief problems with this. One is which they go through a pre-clearance process where they perform the dance number for the judges. And there doesn't seem to be very much time between that and the actual competition for them to radically change the dance routine. So if this was the same choreography from the beginning, why are the judges looking so like shocked and horrified? They approve the number. Secondly, I've never been to a dance competition where 11-year-olds are competing against 15-year-olds, which is the Sweetie Swags, the Swag Sweeties or something like that. They're like dance rivals. It's so underdeveloped. It like kind of doesn't matter. It's there for like shocking moments and that's it. But this is where the whole thing just falls apart for me, because there's so much the movie could have said here. And instead it went for this cheesy film trick. Oh, look, she's happy. She's sorted herself out. And then when you think about it for 5 minutes, you're like, no, wait a minute. Her life is still friggin' horrible. Let me explain. After she gets booed off stage, starts crying, runs away, therefore ruining her friend's dream of doing even remotely well in the dance competition again. She goes and it's her father's wedding and she sees her mother and like, where have you been? Get ready for the wedding. And her mother finally says she doesn't have to go. The mom has to go because it's her duty, but she doesn't have to go. And so Ami goes and starts skipping rope with some girls outside the wedding. And she jumps higher and higher and smiles and oh, it's all happy. Look, she's regained her childhood. But again, like I said, if you think about it for 5 minutes, one, she's still going to get bullied hard at school because of the crotch shot on the internet. Two, she's still in a, culturally traditionalist family with all the, like, what's going to happen to her? The dad clearly runs that household. The dad is back now. Mom doesn't have much say in anything, so what if dad decides to force her into some sort of arranged marriage? Is she gonna get a say? We don't know. And then there's the creepy auntie character who's also like the embodiment of how women enforce misogyny in certain cultures, right? All those pressures are still there, and because she got her first period, she's just on the verge of shit's getting real in that way. Nothing is solved, and all she's done is given up the one thing that was hers that made her feel even remotely happy, and there's no understanding that you can go out and you can dance and you can enjoy it. You just be age appropriate. It's okay to be age appropriate. Like, there's nothing wrong with being age appropriate. Like, it's not better because it's more mature. Act 11 when you're 11 and show her being rewarded for that in something other than jump rope. You know what I mean? Have her dancing in a way that isn't like, oh, good God. No, the movie doesn't do any of that. And that's the thing that I find the most frustrating. because it misses so many opportunities, right? It misses the opportunity to drive the point home that strict conservative upbringings don't protect girls. One, because it abuses their mothers. Two, because it just makes them more curious about all this taboo stuff they're not supposed to do. And then, as I said, the fact that as horrifying as the twerking scenes are, the stuff this girl is escaping is worse. But then, I got thinking about the double standards in terms of dancing and in terms of pop culture and in terms of what we're shocked by and what we reward. And everybody's horrified by Cuties. Even the people who pretend not to be, because they're like, oh, it's uncomfortable, but it's a good kind of uncomfortable. No, there are parts it's just uncomfortable. But then I realized, the 80s and early 90s were the decade of little boys grabbing their crotches impersonating Michael Jackson, and that didn't get called kiddie porn. And considering like all the implications surrounding that, maybe we should not freak out so much about girls, but maybe pay more attention to what boys are doing. Second exhibit, Ricky Martin gyrating at the age of 12 in like sparkly spandex as part of Menudo. Like, there's not much left to the imagination in those costumes. I looked up Menudo videos in preparation for this video, and I'm like, oh dear, that was the late 70s. So, there is a double standard in culture. And I'm not saying that to defend one or the other. I'm not saying one's right, the other's right, or one has to be right. Both could be wrong. Both probably are wrong. I'm just pointing out that we probably overprotect girls and underprotect boys. And the only even remotely close part that the movie deals with there is, one, the brother being successfully bribed, but like, why is that a problem? When he grows up, he's going to have all the freedom in, his adult life. He's going to be able to marry as many women as he can afford, and his wife can't say boo about it. Hopefully not, because they're in France, but still. He's bringing this woman to France, and she seems maybe 10 years older than his 11-year-old daughter. Just saying. Freaking gross. But the scenes with the 14-year-old boy that they are, I'm going to come right out and say it, sexually harassing. It's gross, but he's still having his boundaries repeatedly violated in this movie, and it's played for laughs. Why is that okay? He's a minor too, right? Just because it's minors doing it to a minor doesn't mean that boy isn't psychologically affected by being sexually harassed by a pack of wild 11-year-old girls, right? Again, we overprotect our girls. We underprotect our boys. And that, somebody has to start saying that in art. I don't have the connections or budgets to make film. And there's no way a video game will let me get away with that. Maybe someday. But somebody's got to start doing that. Because instead, we land at the end of the movie with a girl having a single moment of happiness, maybe okay, great, but she's completely blown up her life. And there's no real resolution. And this is why I said to a few of you in like DMs and on Twitch and stuff like that this movie struck me more as like group therapy art project as opposed to an actual professionally crafted movie that says something and feels more like the ongoing process of passing female neurosis from adult women to girls they're claiming to mentor because so few women have figured their shit out. There's nothing cute about any of this, right? It doesn't say anything. It doesn't make any meaningful, lasting commentary about how to be a woman, never mind a girl. Because girls can't spend their entire lives skipping rope with strangers, right? Girls have to do things. Girls have to navigate the world. And this movie is a whole bunch of what not to do and very little what to do. And, as Dirk from Super Arrogant Bros said, Ami basically makes a lot of mistakes. Nothing wrong with that. but she actually does screw over her friends. Like, she's not the greatest person. She's going through a really horrible time. It's understandable, but I don't know why any of those girls would speak to her ever again. There's a gross case of protagonist bias going on in this movie. I feel more sorry for Angelica, her friend in the AOC glasses. We started calling her Mini AOC on Twitch. I feel more sorry for her than Ami by the end of the movie, and I'm actually more interested in her than the main character. And the remaining girls are so underdeveloped. It's not even worth talking about them. And these are all flaws, right? Like, these are all technical and execution flaws in something that is a movie put out to be consumed and to be critiqued, that it's not just about what it's trying to do, it's what it actually accomplishes. And at the end, all it accomplishes is telling another story about a girl who was shamed into some sort of modest existence involving displays of sexuality. And that's a really depressing conclusion when you think about it. Ami didn't choose to give up twerking. She got booed off a stage. How is this uplifting? Because she jumped rope at the end? I'm depressed now. You know, and this is so typical of these film festival films. And in a way, this has been good for me because I talk to people who don't see a lot of film festival films, and between you and me, a lot of like film festival films are half crap. And that's why people think they're so brilliant, because they're so messy that people can see what they want into them. And yeah, good trying to tackle this. And you get made what you can get funded. I get that. But I think that topics this tender should be left to more experienced directors because of the way it falls apart at the end. So that's my take on it. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, quick boss fight update. It was a bit of a rough weekend. There were more technical difficulties. Theme of episode 2 is technical difficulties, but I am still on track for getting it out next week. I will have a better idea tomorrow, absolutely, where I'm at. I'm going to do another push tomorrow, try to get it mostly done. The big question for me is how long the captioning is going to take. So that is where I'm at. The fake switching that I have to do shouldn't take too long. The captioning, my plan to make it quicker will either work amazingly or it'll horribly fall flat. If you want a more detailed update on this and future episodes of Boss Fight, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Loki is barking at me, so thanks for watching.